Hello again, and welcome to SCLC Today TV. I'm your host, Maynard Eaton, and of course, our president and CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. Dr. Steele, as we celebrate the coming of Easter this Sunday, we also lament the passage of a Georgia voting rights law that's seemingly hurting the Black electorate. Others are going across the country similar to that. What you're saying there's a way to stop what's happening in Georgia. What's your formula for reversing that law?
Well, first of all, I'm elated over the fact just shortly ago that Delta Airlines, Microsoft, as well as CocaCola here in Atlanta said that it's unacceptable in terms what the state of Georgia and the legislature, what they have done in Jim Crowism and taking us back over 50 years, Mr. Eaton. That was the whole intent of the 1965 Voter Rights Act. And hopefully our people realize we can't rest on our laurels. You have to always get up in the morning, sometimes don't go to sleep, because soon as you accomplish something in justice and freedom in the venue of overcoming your oppression, there's always the enemy or the devil that's trying to take it away from you. So we're not going to sit idly by and let this happen. I put out a press release today asking the Major League Baseball in terms of the All-Star game coming to Atlanta metropolis here in Atlanta, Georgia, not to come. Also the Masters in Augusta. We must stand up, but I'm so pleased and so motivated and inspired over the fact that we have our corporate leaders to come out and take that type of stand.
Well, that's Delta CEO Ed Bastian who issued this letter, which is really direct, really thorough, and has gotten many Georgia Republicans upset. In fact, as we speak, it's sine die, the last day of the Georgia legislature, and they're talking about ways of spanking Delta back or for issuing this condemnation of the laws they passed. So it's going to be a political back and forth. Are you surprised Delta and other companies have come out for Black voting rights?
No, I'm not surprised. How many dollars and cents we spend with these corporations, Mr. Eaton, in terms of the economy? African Americans consume a lot of products throughout this country, but in particular our travel, our conventions. You're talking about Microsoft, and Lord knows I bought 3 or 4 Coca-Colas in the last 3 or 4 days because it's good in terms of my wanting to feel relaxed, being here in Atlanta. I support Coca-Cola, and the mere fact that it's good for health reasons, in terms of my personal health reasons, in terms of indigestion. You know, it's just good for me to drink a Coke every 2 or 3 days. So I'm elated. I will buy more Cokes, ride and drive and computeate in terms of Microsoft, and drive automobiles with the dealerships that's going to come out. And the reason that these corporate leaders, these corporate giants are coming out to some degree, man, is that the former CEOs of, and one of my good friends that I know, Ken Chenault, former chairman of the board of American Express. Ken Chenault came out with other executives of IBM and Xerox and all of these many other companies that had presidents and CEOs of corporate America taking a stand. And to have Coke and Delta and Microsoft and others, it's just amazing. And that's what Vince Lombardi said as a coach in football. A leader must always lead with the possibility and not impossible. If other people say it's impossible and you know it's right, you turn and lead for what is right. It's never too late to do what's right.
One of your colleagues, the esteemed Reverend Jesse Jackson, called on sports and entertainment industries in Atlanta and Georgia to use their economic and cultural power to boycott Georgia until there's a reversal of these unfair Republican-led voter laws. I'm sure you also echo that as well.
Absolutely. I put out a press release today talking about the history of what took place. See, we got to be proactive and not reactive. Mr. Eaton, how many times have we said on this program, and in all my speeches, I said it's going to rain. What are you talking about, Steele? It's going to rain. Get ready. It's going to rain. Rain down racism, hatred, segregation, Jim Crowism. We have lost 56 years, my friend, in terms of going backwards. We have lost it. And why did we lose it? People still eradicating what we have gained. People were sleeping and saying, you got a black president. Racism is over. We were celebrating and they were eradicated with Section 4 and Section 5 of the 1965 Voter Rights Act. It was gutted out June the 25th, 2013 by the U.S. Supreme Court. What a racist act. 5-4.
They're calling voter laws or voter restrictive laws in Georgia and across the country now. I've heard Senator Warnock suggest this is Jim Crow dressed up in a shirt and tie. Others saying Jim Crow 2.0. I hear you saying Jim Crow never left us. Jim
Crow never left us. We never talked about racism. People weren't even mentioning the word racism, Maynard. What are you afraid of? It's racism. And this country was founded upon racism. We have never been recovered from the transatlantic African slave trade. Well, every Sunday morning, we ought to be talking about this in Sunday school, 11 o'clock service, virtual service, on the streets, on the corners. How can we not? We must call it what it is. If it looked like a duck, sound like a duck, it's racism.
Speaking of morning, Easter Sunday will be here. We're taping this on a Tuesday night, but Easter week is ahead of us. Your thoughts on what Easter means to our constituency, SCLC members, and Black folks in general? What does it say to us? What does it mean to us?
Well, you're talking about this Sunday. I'll be in Chicago. I've been invited to speak at a special breakfast on Monday morning in commemoration of Dr. King. My second trip to Chicago in so many days, and I'm honored to be the keynote speaker with so many other outstanding leaders that's going to be there. But my message is going to be the same, just what I'm talking about right now. Not that it's going to rain, it's already raining. And you must understand you have to get an umbrella. And Dr. King said something that was never in his speech. And I'm going to talk about it in Chicago this weekend. You're talking about Easter Sunday, you're talking about April the 4th, Dr. King Assassination Day. Dr. King said to Harry Belafonte, Mr. Eaton, a few months before he was assassinated, he was at Harry Belafonte residence. It's not in a lot of the written material or speeches of Dr. King, but I got it documented. He said, Harry, I'm afraid that I have led my people into an integrated house that's burning. And Harry said, what are you going to do, Martin? He said, we have to be like a fireman going to a fire. We must run toward it and put it out. We are into an integrated collapse of an institution and a country called the United States of America. It is raining and we're without an umbrella. We must pick up our umbrella as it rains and as the fire continues. It's raining racism, but the integrated house is on fire. And it's been burning for many of years. It was burning when we came here through and forcefully migrated from Africa under forced contents. We have been under this capitalistic racism in the United States for many of years. We were not taught this in school. So the system is saying, we're going to show you that you're not going to get reparation. You're not going to be relieved from slavery, because when you in an economic bind and you get less than 3% of the loans from the financial institutions, the financial institution of this country, less than 3%. We own less than 3% of the wealth. We lost 60% of black wealth.
That's true.
Maynard, what does it take for us to understand we're not going to take it anymore? And we're not going to just get out there and march. We're going to collaborate and cut our money off. And we're going to pool our resources. And we're going to come together. We're not going to grandstand and get on TV to get on the 6 o'clock news. We're going to be on the everyday news that we are a people that's collaborating and we're united. This is the beginning of it. But the Lord knows best. He brought COVID-19 in the last year, and he also exposed, which was already there, COVID racism.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our president. That's our CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. It's raining racism. I like that line. You're telling the truth as always. God bless you. Have a good time in Chicago. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week. We'll talk about Dr. Steele's speech and our next edition of SCLC Today TV. I'm Maynard Eaton. Have a good night.